All right, it is time to do our first mock draft. This is, I told Nate before we started recording that the entire reason I wanted to start a podcast, and I did this whole long con of posting all of these videos, is just so that I could get him into a mock draft and learn what he's really thinking. So I here we are, and I get to just, it's a bait and switch. This is really just to have him tell me what he's thinking. We have both put our hand on the fantasy playbook and said, we promise to give our real thoughts here and pick the real players. You're not liking it.
I can't believe we're doing this. We're doing it. We're doing it. Please comment on your thoughts, everything that you think about every pick that we make here, because you got to make this worth it for me, folks. So call it how you see it. Comment on what you think about our picks here.
All right. So 1 quarterback, 4 flex. Nate and I are a couple of the top teams in the league. I'm really heavy on wide receivers. I'm very weak at running back. We'll see how this goes. So, I think I'll just move fast past this one because I think the obvious is that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the pick. I think the number one reason is because he succeeded so well when he was getting covered like crazy, higher than most wide receivers in history, and the success rate that he's had is so high. Versus that, he feels ready for that next part. I don't have to convince anybody. We'll move to the next one. Nate, this is I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with it. Someone's trying to get a hold of me and FaceTime me here. Anyway,
I'd pay people to distract you for.
I know that is
for this
messing
pick.
with me at this point. So just taking a look at this, I'm truly conflicted, 100% conflicted in what I'm going to do. But for me, I think I would have to go Nabers here. And this sucks because I've been talking about Odunze. I know what he's capable of, but I think grabbing Nabers is going to be a safer bet this year. And when I'm thinking through how I draft, I generally, no matter what I think about how long a player's career might be, I'm generally drafting for the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And because of all of the mouths to feed in Chicago, you got DeAndre Swift over there now. You've got Keenan Allen. You've got DJ Moore. You've got Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet. Like, there's so many folks that are going to be catching passes back there. I think Malik Nabers is just a safer bet. He's the most locked-in person that's going to be there. We don't even know if Waller's coming back. And I think that safety gives me more freedom for what I'm going to do it for.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. And Nabers is 100% and I've heard only one argument against this, but Nabers is definitely the choice if you're a win now team and you don't have a super crush like I do on Odunze. But Nabers is a great consolation if it ends up being, but in this situation, I get to draft Odunze. I think my first question for you is, when you're approaching these drafts, are you looking at your best available player at the moment, or are you looking at your team need?
So I'm definitely taking roster construction into consideration, and then looking at the value. Like, I'm not going to reach a million miles just because I need a running back, right? If there's a lock-it-in wide receiver available to me, but that'll weigh in a lot heavier than maybe for some other folks, where I think about roster construction first, and then look at value, right? So, for instance here, had I gone the other route, had I gone Odunze with my second pick, just for the fun of it, and because I know I'm not deep at quarterback. I literally suck at quarterback right now because everyone's like, I only have Justin Herbert as an actual starter in the league, that's on my team right now. And with what they've done in the offseason, people are ranking Justin Herbert even outside of their top 10. I've seen in some places of quarterbacks for fantasy purposes next year. Right. So I don't have a great person. So had I drafted Odunze here at 4, I think I consider it a reach, but I might have gone Caleb Williams just to have some fun with it, right?
Yeah.
And think like, oh man, I'm gonna have Caleb Williams. I've got a nice stack there, and it's gonna be there for me. But since that's not what I did, and I'm gonna keep building this draft based on how it's going, I'm gonna get risky here because I think that this guy, like I said earlier, has a shot to get the most receptions out of all rookies. So I'm gonna go grab my boy, Led McConkey.
I like it. Yeah, I figure that might, and I think that's where you should go. I mean, there's it's okay to reach. And what happened here is what I thought might happen. And when I was playing around with like thinking where you would go with your picks, I wouldn't get Caleb Williams at 104 when you can most likely at 111 get Jaden Daniels. And I'm assuming that's going to be your pick here. I would love to hear, but I think that's a correct pick for you here, given your need at quarterback, and he can be an absolute game breaker. I'm a little upset because I have the 2-1, and I would grab him if he fell to the 2-1, and I don't think he will.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I hate that you know so much about me, but it's fine. We've played together for too long. Just digging deeper, I do want to say that on that number 4 spot with this year's draft, with how the wide receivers shake out, once you get past Nabers, Odunze, and Harrison, it's just a preference pick, right? If you like Brian Thomas more, grab Brian Thomas. If you believe in what Worthy's going to do in Kansas City, grab him. Grab the best available wide receiver there because that's where at 4. Yeah, or
like, I mean, even if you're like, I don't agree with the pickup Bowers or Caleb there, but if that's, I think you have the freedom to, or Brooks even, you have the freedom there. There's almost the rest of the round, it's a preference pick.
Right. And you're absolutely right. Based on how my team is constructed and a little bit of an emotional issue with me trading away Anthony Richardson last year and the type of quarterback that he was, I definitely want Jaden Daniels here. I'm a little worried about his frame with how Anthony Richardson got hurt last year, and how he just runs into contact like a beast, but he's not built like one. But I think that the opportunity is too great in Washington, and he could honestly beat out Caleb Williams for points this year. I'm not saying he's a better quarterback. That's not what I'm saying. Don't mishear me. Caleb Williams, rock star, superstar. He's going to kill in this league. But Jaden Daniels has bats to beat him fantasy points this year.
Yeah. I think some of the people that I'm in this position at the turn, I like where you're at with it. I think that you're correct on that pick. I think that you could. It was him or Benson, which is you don't really need for your team. Roster construction. I mean, this is another one of those just break fantasy players. So I'm with you on Jaden Daniels, and I'm sad to confirm my thoughts on where you would go with this. Right here, a couple other players that moved. We got Worthy a little earlier. We got Brian Thomas. Coleman is one of those ones that I don't know how the league will react. And I think Coleman is probably one of those players that might have drastic differences in where he lands depending on the league. For me, I keep going back and forth. His press conferences make me want to draft him at 101.
Just have him on your team.
I just love the guy. He's such a great guy, and I'm really torn. But how I see it is Kincaid is 1A, Curtis Samuel is 1B, and Coleman is 2. I could be wrong there. That's just how I see Coleman. He can play multiple positions. You got that flexibility there. He's got good route running. He's got yak, but like he also struggles in some big playability. He struggles in some different areas in the consistency in his route running. I'm not sold on Coleman. They have to use him perfectly to be able to get the most out of him, and I don't know if I trust that offense to do it. I don't know if I trust the coordinator to do it. So I'm not I would say if he was 201, I probably would end up taking him just because of the upside. But I don't know. I think that's the earliest I would actually take him.
Yeah, and not that this should play too much because it's just a 1-year contract, but they did sign MVS today. Or maybe it was yesterday, but so there's
Yeah, I think that hurts like the
knowledge of the field.
Shakir's shorter more than it hurts any of these guys. But and I wouldn't be surprised if MVS actually didn't make the roster at the end. But where I'm going to go, just to power through, I think Pearsall is somebody that I mentioned in our first episode as somebody I was wondering where he would hit. And so it might be an anchor bias, but I think he landed in the perfect spot in a great offense, and he's in a position where one of the top, probably Debo, is going to leave soon, and he's going to be the number 2 possibly, or eventually maybe make his way to the number 1. So I like his versatility. He has success for man and for zone. He's got really good route running, and he's got amazing hands. But I think he can really fit into this offense and then stretch the field for Purdy. So Pearsall in this situation is where I am going to go. And there's a couple people I think about reaching for that keep bumping up higher and higher and higher. I think that if one of the running backs, though, had dropped either Benson or Brooks, I would probably, given my team need, that might be the tiebreaker for me. I think with positional needs, that's where I end up going, is just the tiebreaker. I always go best available. The tiebreaker is positional need. I'm very light on running back. I always run light on running back. So if there's one that drops to me, then I'll take them. This one's really interesting here. So now I'm at the 301. Senate is he ended up going at 212. This is someone that I've also been talking about that I really like, and I'm upset that he was a reach by far at 3-1 before, and now I can't even get him at 3-1 in this mock. So if there's anybody savvy at all, I feel in our league, then he's not going to make it to me anyways, and I'm not going to take him at 2-1. So goodbye. This player that I 100%, I don't even have to see who else is left on it. The player that I'm taking here is Burton. I don't think that he's going to make it to me here in a real draft. I think he's going to go earlier, but if he doesn't and I get him here, then I'm happy. There's definitely some other players that I would consider if he's gone. Maybe I wouldn't do McCaffrey, but maybe Baker or someone like that I think Senate would go here. If Burton's not available, he's probably going to end up being bumped down and available. So I would take him there. But Burton has the chance to take the number 2 spot for Burrow. And he has a first round grade for a lot of teams before you include his off the field issues that he had. And that's really what ended up pushing him down and getting him to, I think, the 4th round.
Yeah.
So this is where we're going to finish it off here. So we got the 3rd round is the last pick that we're making. So this is our last pick. And I'm interested to see at 311. This is where you got to get one of the nasty boys, the down and dirty. Who's your guy? You can reach the further down in the draft. I feel like you can reach further too, because you're like, I just want to grab the guy that I'm thinking of.
Yeah. I think that you can go a lot of routes here, especially in the 3rd, 4th round. This is where you can mess around and fall in love with folks. But I don't think you're going to get too complicated here with who's available. I'm not going to be that much of a homer, but had I not grabbed McConkey a little bit earlier, there's some pieces that I really love here, and maybe I did too much research on these folks because I love what the Chargers did in the draft. So at this spot, if it was staring me in the face, and I really needed a running back, I think Audric Estime here is a good call, even though it's kind of chalk right now because he's right there at the top of the board for how the mock draft is shaking out for us. But I mean, there's a wide variation of possible end places for him about how this is going to go. But I think that it's a safe bet, as safe as a running back in the 3rd round is going to be for Dynasty. And you're going to reach further and further back. And like I said before, like the running back options that we have in this draft is pretty messy. It's the Burger King of running back classes. Like I said before, like you'd really have to dig to find what you want. And so I'll just go somebody, like I said, is a safe bet. But because I'm going to homer it, I'm going to explain why I'm doing this and why I love it. I'm going to reach a little bit, and I'm going to grab Kamani Vidal. And let me tell you why, because I don't think this guy's going to get talked about enough anywhere. So I'm going to grab Kamani Vidal because of what they're doing in Los Angeles with the Chargers. They're the San Diego Chargers to me forever and ever, by the way. But with what they're doing, he's got that small frame. I think that he has an opportunity to be the best running back the Chargers have by midseason.